Everyone told Serena Vance to fight. They told her to scream, to sue, to burn Marcus's empire to the ground for what he did. But when the divorce papers slid across the mahogany table, Serena didn't scream. She didn't even cry. She just signed and vanished. The tabloids called her the discarded wife. They painted her as weak. But they forgot one thing in the world of the elite: silence isn't surrender. It's a strategy. 2 weeks later, a single photograph surfaced that terrified her ex-husband and changed everything. This is the story of the woman who walked away with nothing, only to reveal she already owned it all. The conference room on the 42nd floor of Sterling and Lockwood smelled of lemon polish and intimidation. It was a cold, glass-walled aquarium designed to make anyone sitting on the guest side feel small. Serena Vance sat with her hands folded in her lap. She wore a simple navy dress, perhaps a season or two old, and no jewelry. Across from her sat Marcus Sterling, the man she had been married to for 12 years. He was looking at his watch. "Serena, let's not make this harder than it needs to be." Marcus said, his voice smooth, the same voice he used to charm venture capitalists and charm the pants off his 24-year-old assistant Tiffany. "The prenup is ironclad. You know that. Arthur has explained it." Arthur Pendleton, the family lawyer who had attended their wedding, looked down at his files, unable to meet Serena's eyes. "The terms are standard, Mrs. Sterling. A lump sum of $2 million. The apartment in Connecticut. No alimony. No claim to the Sterling Tech shares." It was a pittance. Marcus had just made the Forbes list. His net worth was hovering around $900 million. $2 million was what he spent on his car collection last year. "And the NDA?" Serena asked softly. Her voice was steady, devoid of the tremors Arthur had expected. "Standard procedure." Marcus cut in, tapping his fingers on the table. "You don't talk about the marriage, you don't talk about the business, and you certainly don't talk about Tiffany. You take the money, you keep the house in the suburbs, and we both move on. I need this done by noon, Serena. I have a flight to Cabo." He was taking her to Cabo. Tiffany, the woman who had started posting Instagram stories from Serena's own kitchen, while Serena was visiting her sick mother in Ohio. Arthur slid the document across the table. It was thick, heavy, with legalese that essentially erased 12 years of Serena's life. She had nursed Marcus through his first bankruptcy. She had hosted the dinners that wooed his biggest investors. She had proofread the code for his first algorithm when his eyes were too tired to focus. But the world didn't know that. The world just saw the quiet, plain wife who had aged out of her husband's bracket. Marcus pulled a Mont Blanc pen from his breast pocket, a gift Serena had bought him for their 10th anniversary, and held it out to her. "Here," he said, his tone dismissive. "Just sign it." Serena looked at the pen. Then she looked at Marcus. For a second, the air in the room went still. Marcus blinked, unsettled by the look in her eyes. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was the look of someone watching a child play with a loaded gun. "I don't need your pen, Marcus," she said. She reached into her purse and pulled out her own. It was a vintage fountain pen, black lacquer with gold inlay. It looked old, expensive. Arthur Pendleton's eyes widened slightly when he saw it. He recognized the crest on the cap, but he couldn't quite place it. Serena flipped to the back page. She didn't read the clauses. She didn't ask for more money. She didn't ask for the dog. Scritch, scratch. She signed her name. Serena Vance. She dropped the Sterling immediately. "Done," she whispered. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He let out a short, arrogant laugh. "Well, that was easier than I expected. I thought you'd... drama." "I don't do drama, Marcus. You know that," Serena said. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. "I prefer results." "Right." Marcus smirked, already texting Tiffany under the table. "Good luck with the, quiet life, Serena. The check will be wired by morning." Serena walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. She didn't look back at him. "Make sure you check the date on the wire transfer, Marcus, and enjoy Cabo. I hear the weather turns quickly this time of year." She walked out. Marcus laughed, shaking his head. She's broken, he told Arthur. Totally broken. She didn't even fight for the Range Rover. Arthur didn't laugh. He was staring at the signature on the paper. The ink was still wet. Marcus, Arthur said slowly. Did you ever ask Serena about her family? Her real family. She's from Ohio. Her dad was a librarian or something. Why? No reason, Arthur muttered, closing the folder. Just that pen she used. I've only seen that crest once before, on a letterhead from the Banque Privée in Geneva. Marcus waved him off. She probably found it at an antique shop. She loves junk like that. I'm free, Arthur. I'm a free man. Marcus Sterling walked out of that office thinking he had just shed 130 pounds of dead weight. He had no idea he had just pulled the pin on a grenade that had been sitting in his lap for a decade. The next 3 months were a masterclass in public humiliation orchestrated by Marcus Sterling and Tiffany Rourke. Marcus didn't just move on, he broadcasted it. Tiffany, a 24-year-old influencer with a penchant for neon bikinis and tagging brands, moved into the penthouse Serena had decorated. The tabloids ate it up. Daily Mail headline, "Out with the old, in with the bold, CEO Marcus Sterling debuts new fiancée weeks after quiet divorce." Page 6, Serena, who the ex-wife of tech mogul vanishes into suburbia. They paparazzi caught Serena once a week after the divorce loading groceries into a modest sedan in Connecticut. She looked tired. She wore sweatpants. The caption read, "The sad aftermath of a billionaire's ex." Marcus laughed when he saw it. He was on his yacht, the Titan, docked in Monaco for the Grand Prix. Tiffany was dancing on the deck with a bottle of Dom Perignon streaming live to her 2 million followers. She looks pathetic. Tiffany giggled, zooming in on the photo of Serena on her phone. God, Marcus, how did you survive 10 years with that? She's so beige. I was charitable. Marcus grinned, taking a sip of whiskey. She was a placeholder, Tiff. You're the prize. But back in New York, the business was hitting snags. Small ones at first. Marcus's company Sterlotech was preparing for a massive merger with a European conglomerate, Omnicorp. It was the deal that would turn Marcus from a millionaire into a billionaire. But the due diligence meetings were going poorly. They're asking about the Vance protocol in the algorithm, his CTO David said during a frantic Zoom call. They want to know who wrote the core security patch. I did, Marcus lied smoothly. It's my code. They know it's not Marcus. The syntax is different. They're asking to speak to the original architect. They said the code signature matches an external contractor. Well, find the contractor and pay them off, Marcus snapped. We can't find them. The employee ID is just listed as SV from 2014. Marcus froze. SV Serena Vance. He shook his head. Impossible. Serena helped him with typos. She organized his files. She didn't write code. She had a degree in art history. She was a librarian's daughter. SV must have been some freelancer he forgot about. Just handle it, David. I'm in Monaco. Don't ruin my vibe. He hung up annoyed. He needed a distraction. Babe, Tiffany yelled from the deck. Come look. Who is that? Marcus walked over. A massive superyacht was pulling into the slip next to them. The Titan was 150 feet long and impressive, but the boat pulling in eclipsed them. It was the Obsidian, a 300-foot floating palace owned by the Kensington family. The Kensingtons were old money. Not tech CEO money, real money. Railroad steel banking crowns. Victoria Kensington, the matriarch's granddaughter, was the it girl of the global elite. She didn't talk to press, she didn't do influencers, and she certainly didn't hang out with new money tech bros like Marcus. That's Victoria Kensington, Marcus said, adjusting his sunglasses. If we can get invited to their party tonight, the merger is in the bag. The Kensingtons own 15% of Omnicorp. I'll DM her, Tiffany chirped. You don't DM Victoria Kensington, you idiot, Marcus hissed. He watched as the gangway of the Obsidian lowered. Paparazzi on the shore were going wild, cameras flashing like strobe lights. First came the bodyguards. Then came Victoria Kensington, looking tall and icy in a white Chanel jumpsuit. And then walking right next to her, laughing arm in arm, was another woman. She was wearing oversized sunglasses, a wide-brimmed hat, and a dress that Marcus recognized from the cover of Vogue's September issue, a custom piece that hadn't even been released to the public yet. She carried herself with a regal posture that seemed familiar, yet foreign. "Who is that with Tori?" Tiffany asked, squinting. "Is that a model?" The woman turned to help Victoria with her bag. As she turned, the wind caught her hat, tilting it back. The sunlight hit her face. Marcus dropped his whiskey glass. It shattered on the teak deck. It was Serena, but not the Serena in sweatpants, not the Serena who sat quietly at dinner parties. This woman was radiant. Her hair was cut in a sharp chic bob. Her skin glowed. And on her wrist, glinting in the Mediterranean sun, was a Patek Philippe watch that cost more than the house Marcus had generously let her keep. "No," Marcus whispered. "That's impossible." Down on the dock, the paparazzi were screaming. "Victoria, Victoria, who is your friend?" Victoria Kensington stopped. She put her arm around Serena's waist and smiled at the cameras, a rare, genuine smile. She pointed at Serena. "This?" Victoria said, her voice carrying over the water to where Marcus stood frozen. "This is the woman who saved my portfolio. This is Serena, and we're going shopping." The shutters clicked 1,000 times a second. Serena looked up, straight up at the Titan. She saw Marcus. She saw Tiffany. She didn't wave. She didn't scowl. She just lowered her sunglasses, looked him dead in the eye, and gave a small, barely perceptible nod. Then she turned linked arms with the heiress and stepped into the waiting Rolls-Royce Phantom. Marcus's phone began to buzz. It was Arthur, his lawyer. "Marcus?" Arthur's voice was trembling. "I just got a call from the board of Omnicorp." "Not now, Arthur. I think I'm hallucinating." "Marcus, listen to me. The acquisition is on hold." "Why?" Marcus screamed, his eyes still fixed on the retreating Rolls-Royce. "Because Omnicorp just hired a new external consultant to audit your code. A silent partner." "Who?" "Serena Vance." The photograph didn't just circulate, it detonated. By the time Marcus managed to pick up the shards of his whiskey glass on the deck of the Titan, the image of Serena and Victoria Kensington was trending globally. Twitter X was ablaze. TikTok detectives were already dissecting Serena's outfit frame by frame. Who is the woman with Victoria Kensington? Is that the sad ex-wife from Connecticut? No way. Look at the posture. That bag is a Hermes Himalaya Birkin. You don't buy that. You are invited to buy that. Who is she really? In the master suite of his yacht, Marcus was pacing, his phone glued to his ear. Tiffany was sitting on the bed sobbing into a pillow, not because she was sad, but because she had lost 10,000 followers in an hour. The comments on her latest bikini post were brutal. "You're the downgrade, sweetie." "Arthur, find out what she's doing there." Marcus barked into the phone. "Is she working for the Kensingtons? Is she a nanny? A personal assistant?" "Marcus?" Arthur's voice was weary. "I called the Kensington family office. I tried to use your connection with the Omnicorp deal to get a read on the situation. They laughed at me." "They laughed?" "The chief of staff told me, and I quote, 'Ms. Vance is not a staff member. She is a guest of the family, and Mr. Sterling should focus on his own liquidity issues rather than his ex-wife's itinerary.'" Then they hung up. Marcus threw the phone onto the velvet duvet. "She's doing this to spite me. She spent 12 years clipping coupons and watching Netflix, and suddenly she's Grace Kelly. It's a facade. She probably spent the entire divorce settlement on that one outfit." But deep down, a cold knot of dread was tightening in his stomach. He remembered the pen, the bank in Geneva, the way she had signed the papers without reading them. I don't do drama, Marcus. I prefer results. Meanwhile, 3 miles away at the Hotel de Paris, the atmosphere was very different. The royal suite was a sprawling expanse of marble and gold leaf overlooking the harbor. Victoria Kensington was kicked back on a chaise lounge, still wearing her white jumpsuit, eating a club sandwich with her hands. Serena sat at the desk, her laptop open. The glamorous mystery woman vibe was gone. She was in work mode. She was typing rapidly, her eyes scanning streams of data that would make a Wall Street trader dizzy. "You broke the internet, Wren," Victoria said, wiping mayonnaise from her lip. "Marcus is calling my brother. He's calling my publicist. He's panicked." Serena didn't look up from the screen. He should be. His liquidity ratios are a mess. He's leveraged Sterlotech against his personal assets to fund the acquisition. If the Omnicorp deal stalls for more than 2 weeks, the banks will call in his loans. He'll be insolvent. Victoria shook her head admiringly. "You really are cold, you know that. The man dumped you for a walking spray tan and you're not even angry. You're just disassembling him, like a Lego set." Serena stopped typing. She swiveled her chair around. He underestimated the variable Vic. He thought he was the architect of his success. He forgot who built the foundation. Serena walked over to the balcony. The wind whipped her hair. She looked down at the harbor, spotting the Titan in the distance. It looked like a toy boat from up here. "Do you remember Zurich 2012? Serena asked. Victoria's playfulness vanished. She sat up. "I try not to." "Your father had just passed. The board was trying to push you out of Kensington Industries. They said you were too young, too inexperienced. They forged those emails to make it look like you were embezzling." "And everyone believed them," Victoria whispered. "Even my own uncles." "And I was the forensic accountant the board hired to nail you to the cross," Serena said. "I was supposed to find the dirt. But you didn't. I found the truth. I found the digital trail proving your uncle hired a hacker to plant the evidence. I could have handed it to the board and taken my paycheck. I was 26, hungry and broke. But I didn't." "You came to me," Victoria said softly. "In the middle of the night. You gave me the drive. You saved my reputation. You saved my legacy." "Because I hate bullies, Victoria. And I hate liars." Serena took a sip of sparkling water. "Marcus is both. For 12 years I played the role he needed. The supportive wife, the quiet partner. I ghost-wrote his code. I structured his shell companies to be legal. I smoothed over his PR disasters. I wanted a family. I wanted peace. I thought if I made him successful, we'd be happy." She turned back to the room, her eyes hard. "I was wrong. He didn't want a partner. He wanted an audience. And when he got bored of the applause, he fired me." Victoria stood up and walked over, placing a hand on Serena's shoulder. "So what's the play? You're the lead auditor for the Omnicorp merger now. You hold his fate in your hands. Do you kill the deal?" Serena smiled, and it was a terrifying expression. "Kill the deal, no. That's too easy. If the deal dies, he just goes bankrupt. He blames the market. He becomes a martyr." She walked back to her laptop and hit send. "I'm going to let the deal go through, but on my terms. I'm going to expose the Vance protocol. I'm going to show the world that the genius behind Sterlotech wasn't Marcus Sterling. It was the wife he discarded." The laptop chimed. A notification popped up. "To Board of Directors Omnicorp from S. Vance External Lead Auditor. Subject Due Diligence Report. Discrepancies in Sterlotech IP ownership." "Showtime," Serena whispered. 2 days later, Marcus was back in San Francisco. The vacation had been cut short. Tiffany was left in Monaco with his credit card, which had been declined twice at Prada, while Marcus flew private back to the war room. The headquarters of Sterlotech was a glass monolith in Silicon Valley. Usually Marcus walked in like a god. Today he walked in like a fugitive. He stormed into the boardroom. The entire executive team was there. David, the CTO, looked like he hadn't slept in a week. "Tell me this is a joke." Marcus slammed his briefcase on the table. Omnicorp is demanding a code audit. They want to interview the original author of the core algorithm. I told you to fake it, David. We can't, David stammered. The auditor they hired, she's good. Too good. She flagged lines of code that we didn't even know existed. Hidden signatures. She says the IP doesn't belong to the company. Who is she? Marcus demanded. Get her on a video call. I'll offer her double whatever Omnicorp is paying. Everyone has a price. She's already here, a voice said from the doorway. Marcus spun around. Standing in the glass doorway was Serena. She wasn't wearing the couture dress from Monaco. She was wearing a sharp charcoal gray power suit, tailored to within an inch of its life. Her hair was slicked back. She held a leather portfolio, not the cheap plastic folder she used to carry his dry cleaning receipts in, but a custom Italian leather case. Behind her stood 3 lawyers Marcus recognized immediately. They were from Halloway & Finch, the most aggressive corporate litigation firm in New York. They were sharks, and they were walking behind Serena like she was the Great White. Serena. Marcus breathed the color draining from his face. What are you doing here, security? Security can't help you, Marcus, Serena said, walking into the room. The executives parted for her like the Red Sea. She took the seat at the head of the table, his seat. Marcus was too stunned to move. Get out of my chair. It's not your chair anymore, Serena said calmly, opening her portfolio. As of this morning, Omnicorp has frozen the merger pending an investigation into intellectual property theft. And since your loan covenants require the merger to close by Friday, the bank has technically seized operational control of Sterlotech. She looked up at him. Her eyes were cold, professional. I've been appointed by the bank and Omnicorp as the interim compliance officer. I'm in charge, Marcus. The room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the server room down the hall. You, Marcus sputtered, a vein throbbing in his forehead. You're a housewife. You don't know anything about this business. You think you can just walk in here because you're sleeping with the Kensingtons? Serena didn't flinch. She reached into her portfolio and pulled out a thick black notebook. It was battered, the spine cracked. Marcus froze. He recognized that book. He had seen it on her nightstand for years. He thought it was her diary. He thought she wrote poems or grocery lists in it. Do you know what this is, Marcus? She asked, tapping the cover. Your diary, he sneered, trying to regain composure. It's a ledger, she corrected. The black ledger. She opened it to a page marked with a red tab. August 14th, 2016, system crash. The database was corrupted because you tried to cut corners on the server migration to save money for your Ferrari down payment. You called me crying, saying you were going to lose everything. Who fixed it? Marcus swallowed hard. You called tech support. I was tech support, Marcus. I rewrote the database architecture in 4 hours while you slept off a panic attack. I logged it here. She flipped a page. November 2019. The scandal with the senator's daughter. You thought it went away. It didn't go away. I negotiated the settlement. I structured the payments through a blind trust so it wouldn't trace back to the company. I saved your reputation. I logged it here. She flipped another page. And the algorithm, the Sterling engine that this entire company is based on. She looked at David, the CTO. David, bring up the source code for the core kernel. Line 405. David hesitated, then typed on his laptop. The code appeared on the giant screen behind Serena. Read the comment line, Serena commanded. David squinted. It says written by SV for MS. Happy anniversary. A collective gasp went through the room. I wrote the engine, Marcus, Serena said, her voice low and dangerous. I gave it to you as a gift for our 5th anniversary. But since I signed the divorce papers last week and the prenup specifically stated that I retain ownership of all personal creations prior to formal employment, and since I was never formally employed, she closed the book with a heavy thud. The engine belongs to me. You're trying to sell my property to Omnicorp. Marcus fell back into a chair, his legs giving out. This is fraud. You can't prove you wrote it. I just did, Serena said. And I have the original timestamps on my private server, which, by the way, I've already sent to the Omnicorp board. She stood up. The power in the room swirled around her. She wasn't the discarded wife. She was the Titan. Here's the deal, Marcus. You have two options. Option A, I sue you for IP theft, fraud, and breach of contract. The merger dies. The bank seizes your assets. You go to prison for misleading investors. And Tiffany leaves you because you'll be broke. And option B. Marcus croaked, his voice barely a whisper. Option B, Serena said, walking toward the door. You resign as CEO, effective immediately. You admit to health reasons. You sign over your voting rights to a trustee of my choosing. In exchange, I let the merger go through. You walk away with a payout enough to live comfortably, but nowhere near $1 billion. And you never ever say my name in public again. She stopped at the door and looked back. You have 1 hour to decide. I'll be in your office. Or rather, my office. She walked out. The lawyers followed. Marcus sat alone in the boardroom, surrounded by the executives who used to fear him, looking at the empty chair where his wife used to sit. He realized then that he hadn't just lost a wife. He had lost the engine that made him run. But Serena wasn't done. This was just business. The personal reckoning was still to come. Because there was one more name in the black ledger. A name that Marcus had kept hidden even from himself. A secret that connected Serena not just to the Kensingtons, but to a scandal that could bring down more than just a tech company. As Serena walked into the CEO's office, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Victoria Kensington. The Baron is landing in San Francisco tonight. He saw the news. He knows you're active again. Be careful, Wren. He's not like Marcus. He doesn't play by the rules. Serena looked out the window at the Silicon Valley skyline. A small, grim smile touched her lips. Good, she whispered. I'm tired of rules. Marcus Sterling was not handling his downfall with grace. 3 days after being ousted from his own company, he sat in a dim leather-boothed corner of the Cavalier, a private club in San Francisco. He wasn't drinking his usual single malt scotch. He was drinking vodka straight, and he was staring at his phone. The headlines were relentless. The Vance victory, how the ex-wife took the throne. Sterling stock soars 12% after leadership change. That was the knife in the gut. The market liked her better than him. It's a temporary correction, Marcus mumbled to the empty seat across from him. She'll crash it. She doesn't have the stomach for the big leagues. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Mr. Sterling. Marcus looked up. A man was standing by the booth. He was older, perhaps in his 60s, wearing a suit that whispered of Savile Row tailoring, navy wool perfectly cut. He leaned on a silver-tipped cane. His hair was silver swept back, and his eyes were a pale, watery blue that seemed to see right through Marcus's vodka haze. Who are you? Marcus slurred, trying to straighten his tie. I'm not taking pitches today. I'm not here to pitch, Marcus. I'm here to salvage, the man said. He didn't ask for permission. He simply slid into the booth. He signaled the waiter with a single raised finger. A bottle of the 82 Lafitte, and water for my friend. The man folded his hands on the table. My name is Elias Vane, but in certain circles in Europe they call me the Baron. Marcus blinked. The name rang a bell. Vane Logistics, Vane Heavy Industries, old dark money, the kind of money that moved governments. What do you want with me? Marcus asked, suddenly sobered by the man's aura. I want what your wife stole from me, Vane said softly. Ex-wife. And she didn't steal anything. She just embarrassed me. Vane chuckled, a dry rattling sound. You think this is about your little app company? You think Serena Vance is just a housewife who learned to code, you poor, naive boy. Vane leaned in. The air around the table seemed to drop 10 degrees. 12 years ago, Serena Vance wasn't Serena Vance. She went by the handle, the architect. She worked out of Geneva for a private intelligence firm, my firm. She didn't just write code, Marcus. She built the digital backdoors for the Swiss banking system. She created the encryption keys for half the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Marcus stared at him, his mouth slightly open. Serena, my Serena, she knits. She watches baking shows. Cover, Vane spat. Deep cover. She was the best asset I ever had. Until she grew a conscience. In 2012 she disappeared. Took a hard drive with her. The master key. A piece of code that can unlock the encryption of every major bank my clients use. I spent millions looking for her. I thought she was dead. Vane took a sip of the wine the waiter had just poured. Then I see a photo of her in Monaco wearing a hat laughing with that Kensington girl. And then I see her seize control of your company using a proprietary algorithm. Vane looked at Marcus with pity. That sterling engine she gave you for your anniversary, the code that made you rich, that was a watered-down, domesticated version of the master key. You've been sitting on a nuclear weapon for a decade and using it to sell targeted ads for sneakers. Marcus felt the room spin. It all made sense. The way she handled the complex legal documents. The way she learned languages so fast. The way she remained calm when the IRS audited them 3 years ago. She had fixed it in an afternoon. She played me, Marcus whispered. She hid in plain sight, Vane corrected. She used you as a human shield, a boring, loud, ambitious man to distract the world while she lived a quiet life in the suburbs. But now she's out in the open, and I want my property back. Vane slid a black card across the table. It had no numbers, just a gold crest. She has the drive. It's likely in that black ledger she carries. You are going to get it for me. Why would I help you? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Because right now you are a laughingstock. Vane smiled cruelly. Help me, and I will destroy her credibility. I will expose her criminal past. She will go to prison for corporate espionage. And you will get your company back. And a seat on my board. Marcus looked at the card. He thought about Serena sitting in his chair. He thought about the way she had looked through him. He picked up the card. What do you need me to do? Meanwhile, in the penthouse of the Fairmont Hotel, Serena was looking at the San Francisco Bay wrapped in a silk robe. Victoria was sitting on the couch reading the Wall Street Journal. They're calling you the Iron Dove. Victoria laughed. Apparently stock analysts love a ruthless divorcee. Serena didn't smile. She was staring at the reflection in the window. He's here, Vic. Victoria lowered the paper. Who? Elias, I can feel it. The Baron. Victoria stood up. I thought he was just a rumor, a boogeyman you told me about. He's real. And he's in the city. My firewall logged an intrusion attempt on the Sterlotech servers an hour ago. It wasn't a hacker script. It was a skeleton key signature. Only one person has that signature besides me. Serena turned around. She looked tired. The adrenaline of the takeover had faded, leaving behind the fear she had carried for 12 years. He saw the code, Vic. When I exposed the Vance protocol to stop Marcus, I signaled my location. I rang the dinner bell for the wolves. So we fight, Victoria said fiercely. You have the Kensingtons behind you now. We have lawyers' security. Elias Vane eats lawyers for breakfast, Serena said. He doesn't want a lawsuit. He wants the Black Ledger. It contains the original source code for the master key. If he gets it, he can drain the accounts of his enemies. He can topple economies. That's why I stole it. That's why I ran. So destroy it, Victoria said. Burn the book. I can't. It's the only leverage I have. If I destroy it, he kills me. As long as I have it, I'm dangerous. Serena walked over to the safe in the wall. She punched in a code, scanned her retina, and the heavy door hissed open. Inside sat the battered black notebook. I have to finish this, Serena said, taking the book. I can't run anymore. I'm not the librarian's daughter anymore. She looked at Victoria. The Red Gala is tomorrow night at the De Young Museum. Everyone will be there. The press, the investors, and him. You think he'll try something at a museum gala? I think he'll try to corner me publicly. He likes an audience. He thinks fear works best in a crowd. Serena's eyes hardened. But he forgot one thing. What's that? He taught me everything I know, but I learned a few things from Marcus, too. Victoria raised an eyebrow. From Marcus? What could that idiot teach you? Serena smiled, a sharp, dangerous curve of her lips. How to put on a show. The De Young Museum was bathed in crimson light. It was the night of the Red Gala, the most exclusive charity event of the San Francisco social calendar. Tickets were $50,000 a plate. The dress code was strict rouge. Marcus arrived early. He was wearing a burgundy velvet tuxedo that looked a little too flashy, a little too desperate. He wasn't on the guest list, but Elias Vane was, and Marcus was his +1. The humiliation of walking in as a guest to an event he used to sponsor burned, but he swallowed it. He scanned the room. It was a sea of red silk rubies and fake smiles. She's not here yet, Marcus whispered into his lapel mic. She likes an entrance. Vane's voice crackled in his ear. Vane was somewhere above in the VIP observation deck watching the chessboard. Stick to the plan, Marcus. Get her alone. Get the bag. At 8:15 p.m. the room went silent. At the top of the grand staircase, Serena Vance appeared. She wore a gown of deep blood-red liquid satin that clung to her body like a second skin. It was backless, daring, and utterly commanding. Around her neck was a diamond choker that looked suspiciously like the Kensington Crown jewels on loan. But it was what she held in her hand that caught Marcus's eye. A small crystal-encrusted clutch, just big enough for a notebook. She descended the stairs flanked by Victoria Kensington and 2 massive bodyguards. The photographers went wild. Marcus stepped forward, his heart hammering. He had to get her away from the guards. "Serena!" he called out, putting on his best remorseful ex-husband face. Serena stopped. The crowd parted. She looked at Marcus with mild amusement. "Hello, Marcus. I see you kept the velvet tux. I always told you that color washed you out." "Can we talk?" Marcus pleaded loud enough for people to hear. "Just for a minute. I want to apologize. For everything. Please." Victoria moved to block him, but Serena held up a hand. "It's okay, Vic. Give us a moment." She stepped closer to Marcus. "You have 2 minutes." "Not here," Marcus whispered. "On the terrace, please." Serena studied him. She saw the sweat on his brow. She saw the earpiece in his ear. She knew. "Fine," she said. She walked with him to the glass doors leading to the sculpture garden. It was dark outside, the fog rolling in from the bay. As soon as the doors clicked shut, Marcus's demeanor changed. He stopped looking sad and started looking desperate. "Give it to me, Serena." "Give you what?" "The book, the ledger. I know what's in it. I know who you are. The architect." Serena didn't blink. She adjusted her shawl. "So Elias found you. I wondered how long it would take. Did he promise you the company back, or maybe a nice little island?" "He promised me my life back," Marcus hissed. "You ruined me. You lied to me for 12 years. I protected you." Serena snapped, her voice finally rising. "I kept you safe from my world, a world where people don't get sued, Marcus, they get erased, and now you've invited the devil to dinner." "He's here," a deep voice said from the shadows. Elias Vane stepped out from behind a Rodin sculpture. He held a silenced pistol casually low at his side. "Hello, architect." Vane smiled. "You look ravishing. Red suits you. It hides the bloodstains." "Elias." Serena nodded, her pulse steady. "You're looking old. The Swiss winters must be harsh on your joints." "Enough banter," Vane said. "Hand over the clutch. I know the ledger is inside. The master key. And if I don't, then I shoot your ex-husband. Vane shrugged. No great loss to the world, frankly, but then I shoot you, and I take it off your corpse. Marcus froze. Wait, you said no violence? You said we'd just scare her. You really are an idiot, aren't you? Vane laughed. There are no witnesses out here, Marcus, just fog. Serena looked at Marcus. She saw the terror in his eyes. Despite everything, the betrayal, Tiffany, the cruelty, she felt a pang of pity. He was just a pawn. Let him go, Elias, Serena said. This is between us. The book first. Serena slowly lifted the crystal clutch. She opened it. Vane stepped closer, greedy anticipation lighting up his eyes. Marcus cowered against the glass door. Serena reached into the bag. You want the master key? She asked. You want the code that controls the world. Give it to me, Vane demanded. Serena pulled her hand out. She wasn't holding a notebook. She was holding a detonator. What is that? Vane stopped. You taught me, Elias. Always have a kill switch, Serena said coldly. The ledger isn't in my bag. It's connected to a biometric server in the cloud. And if I press this button, or if my heart rate stops, the entire database deletes itself. The master key, the client list, the blackmail you have on half the G7 summit leaders, all of it. Gone. Forever. Vane's face went pale. You wouldn't. That's your insurance. I don't need insurance anymore. Serena stepped forward, forcing Vane to step back. I have a life now. I have a name. I am Serena Vance, and I am done running. She held the detonator up. So here is the new deal, Elias. You are going to turn around. You are going to walk out of here. You are going to get on your jet and go back to Geneva. And you are never going to look for me again. Because if you do, I won't just delete the code. She smiled, and it was the scariest thing Marcus had ever seen. I'll publish it. I'll make the master key open source. I'll give every hacker in the world the keys to your kingdom. Imagine the chaos, Elias. You'll be broke and hunted by your own clients within an hour. Vane stared at her. He looked at the detonator. He looked at her eyes. He saw no hesitation. He lowered the gun. You've changed, architect, he spat. I evolved, she corrected. Vane holstered his weapon. He adjusted his cuffs. This isn't over. Yes, Serena said. It is. Vane turned and vanished into the fog. Marcus slid down the glass door, sitting on the cold concrete, gasping for air. He was going to kill me. Serena looked down at him. She didn't offer him a hand. Yes, he was. That's the price of admission to the big leagues, Marcus. You wanted to be a billionaire, that's what it looks like. Is it real? Marcus pointed at the detonator. Can you really destroy it all? Serena looked at the device in her hand. Then she tossed it to Marcus. He caught it. It was a garage door opener, a generic clicker for a gate. What? Marcus stammered. It opens the gate to the Kensington estate. Serena shrugged. Elias was always too paranoid for his own good. He believed it because he wanted the power to be that fragile. You bluffed him, Marcus whispered in awe. You bluffed the Baron. I told you. Serena smoothed her red dress. I learned how to put on a show from you. She turned to go back inside, back to the music and the lights. Serena, Marcus called out. She paused. What happens to me? He asked, his voice small. You have your payout, Marcus. Go to Cabo. Take Tiffany. Be quiet. Because if you ever try to come for me again, next time I won't use a garage door opener. She opened the glass doors. The warmth of the gala hit her. Victoria was waiting right there with 2 glasses of champagne. Handled? Victoria asked. Handled, Serena said, taking the glass. And Marcus. Serena looked back at the man sitting alone in the dark, clutching a garage door opener like it was a lifeline. He's exactly where he belongs, Serena said. In the past. 12 months later, the world looked very different. In a small rented condo in Boca Raton, Florida, Marcus Sterling sat on a beige microfiber couch. The air conditioning rattled, a stark contrast to the silent central climate control of his old penthouse. On the coffee table sat a half-eaten pizza and a stack of unpaid bills. Tiffany was gone. She had lasted exactly 3 weeks after the settlement money ran out. She was now dating a cryptocurrency promoter in Miami. Marcus picked up his iPad. He didn't have an assistant to screen his news anymore. He had to read it himself. He opened the Time magazine app. The Person of the Year issue had just dropped. The cover wasn't a politician. It wasn't a tech bro in a hoodie. It was 2 women standing back to back looking like the queens of a new world order. Serena Vance and Victoria Kensington. Headline: The Silent Partners. How V&K Security Saved the Global Banking System. Marcus stared at the photo. Serena looked ageless. She wore a white suit, sharp and clean. Her eyes held a secret that the camera only half caught. The article detailed their rise. After the Vance protocol went public, Serena and Victoria had launched Vance & Kensington, a boutique cybersecurity firm. Within 6 months, they had contracts with the Pentagon, the Swiss Federal Council, and ironically Omnicorp. They had bought Sterlotech for pennies on the dollar after the stock cratered. They stripped it for parts, fired the board that had ousted Marcus, and turned the headquarters into a non-profit coding academy for underprivileged girls. Marcus scrolled down to the interview section. Interviewer: Ms. Vance. Many people say your rise was an overnight success. You went from a divorcee to a billionaire CEO in under a year. What is your secret? Serena. It wasn't overnight. I spent 12 years building the foundation in the dark. People mistake silence for weakness. But silence is where you do your best work. While everyone else is shouting to be heard, the architect is quietly drawing the blueprints. Interviewer: And what about the rumors of your past, the Black Ledger? The Baron. Serena: My past is just data. I archived it. I'm focused on the future. Marcus closed the iPad. He felt a strange mix of bitterness and admiration. He realized now that he had never really known her. He had married a reflection of what he wanted to see, while the real Serena Vance was hiding behind the mirror holding the entire building up. He looked at the cheap pen on his table. It was a plastic ballpoint he got from the bank. He remembered the gold inlay fountain pen Serena had used to sign the divorce papers. The one with the crest. He finally Googled the crest. It was the coat of arms for the Order of the Sphinx, a civilian merit award given by the Swiss government for services to national security. She had been a hero before he even met her, and he had treated her like a servant. Well played, Wren, Marcus whispered to the empty room. Well played. Across the ocean, in a chalet in Gstaad, Serena stood on a balcony overlooking the snow-capped Alps. The air was crisp. Inside, a fire was crackling. Victoria was pouring vintage champagne. To the acquisition, Victoria toasted, raising her glass. We officially own the bank that refused to give you a loan 10 years ago. Serena smiled, clinking her glass. To the bank. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, battered black notebook. The Black Ledger. Are you finally going to burn that thing? Victoria asked. Elias is gone. He's retired to a private island with no internet access. You don't need the leverage anymore. Serena looked at the book. It contained the codes, the secrets, the evidence of a life lived in the shadows. No, Serena said. She walked over to the bookshelf and placed the ledger between a copy of The Art of War and Pride and Prejudice. I'm not burning it. I'm keeping it. Why? Serena turned back to the view, watching the sun set over the mountains she used to run through as a ghost. Because it's a reminder, Serena said softly. Never let anyone make you feel small again. And if they try... She took a sip of champagne, her eyes gleaming with absolute, unshakable peace. Show them who owns the ink. Serena Vance didn't just win the divorce. She won the war. She proved that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one screaming, it's the one listening. She took the bricks her ex-husband threw at her and built an empire. It makes you wonder, who are the quiet people in your life, and are you underestimating them? If you enjoyed this story of betrayal strategy and the ultimate glow-up, please hit that like button. It helps the algorithm find more stories like this. And if you want to see more sagas about justice served cold, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I want to know your thoughts in the comments. If you were Serena, would you have saved Marcus from the Baron? Or would you have let him pay the price? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and remember, silence is a strategy.